So what we're going to do is just kind of further shape the model, and then we're going to make it so it can articulate better. So we'll just kind of work from the feet up here. So what I'm going to do is use my multi-cut tool here, and I'm just going to click on the model here. And if you look at his feet, you know, there could be a little bit more definition here. It's a little bit too plain. So I'm just going to kind of put one in the middle here to use that. I don't know why. Come on, hold Control, click. There it goes. To use that sort of as a guide, I'm going to double click on this edge loop, and I'm just going to flatten this out a little bit. And then I'm going to switch to the side view here. I'm going to right click, go to vertex, and I am just going to grab these and crap. So for whatever reason, I don't have the mirroring on, so I'm going to undo that. I noticed it when I was looking through. Make sure you've got the Object X on. Alright, so let's go back to multi-cut. Click on that again. Go to edge, double click, R. I'm just going to scale so it's a little bit flatter. Alright, now I'm going to switch to a front or side view. I'm just going to grab this and just kind of move it. Come on, move it down like so. Just going to grab these and move these down a little bit more, and just kind of, just so that looks a little bit better, right? It's a little bit better of a shape. And I had given them shorts, so I guess we'll give them shorts still. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to put this roughly where the shorts would go. And then you can see how what it's doing is it's cutting it halfway between what this line is and what this line is. So that makes it look like this. So obviously that's not great. So I'm going to go ahead, I want it to be straight. I'm going to double click on the edge. So right click, drag up to edge, double click, and I'm going to hit R for scale, and I'm going to scale it perpendicular. That's going to straighten it up, okay? And then I also need down here, you can see that his ankle, right, should be a lot thinner. So I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to put one where the ankle would go. So right here, I'm going to do the same thing again. Double click, scale it flat, and then I'm going to scale this one. I'm going to scale this one down. So let's say there. Let's move it down a little bit to roughly here, we'll say. That seems acceptable. And then I'm going to put another one here for the shoe. So I'm going to hold Control and click. Good. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this, and I'm just going to pull this up like that. And what you're going to see is, because that goes in and this comes up and over, it makes it look a little bit more like a shoe. I'm going to grab this back one here, and I'm just going to move it back and over like this. And you can see it looks a little bit more shoe-like, right? Okay. Now he's got some, you know, this is his legs, right? Because that's where the shorts are, and his legs are supposed to be here. So what we're going to do is use my multi-cut tool, and I'm going to cut a line right here, right next. Hold Control and click right next to the other one. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on this edge loop, and I'm going to scale this in, like so. All right, don't go too much. That looks great, but that's too much. So I'm just going to kind of scale it roughly, you know, to where it would be. All right, and you can see that looks okay. And I'm just going to push it up a little bit too, like so. And you can see, yeah, now he's got basically his shorts. That looks okay. We'll further kind of shape this a little bit in a second here. Now, when I'm looking at his legs here, you can see how his legs are like jutting into it. I want these to actually, I want it to be a little bit, I want it to be a little bit more relaxed than that. So I want to take this leg and maybe move it in. So I'm going to go to vertex. I'm going to click and drag. And then I want to grow my selection, meaning I want to grab these verts up here next. But you can see it's kind of hard to get in there and select them. So what I'm going to do is I selected all of these. And then if I do Shift and then the greater than symbol, so if you look at the M key, you'll see the greater than less than symbol to the right of it. So I guess it's also the period. So I'm going to hit Shift and that's going to grow my selection. And then I'm going to hit Shift and that again, and it's going to grow the selection again. And I'm just going to push this in a little bit. You see, like that, so it's a little bit tighter to the crotch area. And then I'm going to do Shift and less than, and that's going to decrease my selection. And I'm just going to kind of pull this down and over, just so there's less space there, and he's got a little less of the childbearing hips, right? So that looks a little bit better. And then, yeah, let's go ahead also, and his buttocks area could be better. So I'm going to grab this edge and this edge, and I guess we'll grab this one, and I'm just going to hit W. I'm just going to push this out so he's got a little bit more of the chunk. Alright, okay, so let's grab this one and push this back a little bit. It's a little too much badonkey donk. Okay, so the other thing I want to do is basically a shirt line here. So he needs a shirt line, so it's going to be the same thing we did before. Go to the multi-cut tool, put roughly where I want the shirt to be, and then I'm going to put another one here. Okay, so you put two right next to each other. I'm going to switch the edges, double click on this one. I'm going to scale this one out a little bit, and we'll pull it down a little bit, and I'm just going to grab this and also scale this out just to kind of help it flow into it. And now you can see it looks like a shirt. So another thing that might also help is I want you to select the whole model in object mode, and you notice that some of it is what we call hard edges. See how these, you can see like they're just like the edges themselves are very rigid, look like folded pieces of paper. And then other parts are what we call soft. See how like these faces in between, like these two, see how you can't see them, but you can see this line here. So that's the hard edge, and what's inside of here is a soft edge. I'm going to grab the whole thing, and I just want you to go to Mesh Display and do Soft and Hard Edge. Hit the option box and make this, where it says angle, make it 60 degrees and hit Apply. I'm not sure if that's the amount I want. Yeah, 60 will work. So just hit 60, and you can just hit Soft, Hard, or hit Apply. It's fine. Hit Close. What that's going to do is it's going to make anything that's basically under 60 degrees will become a hard edge, and anything past that will be soft. Okay, so meaning that if you look, the angle here to here is less than that 60, so it becomes hard. But like this one here to here is obviously past 60 degrees, so it makes it soft. But it makes it a little bit easier to see what we're doing. Okay, so we got that. I don't think he needs too much more really in there. His arms don't look the greatest, so I'm going to kind of fix that. I'm going to give him a little bit more of a shoulder and kind of area there. So let's go to Vertex and grab this one and this one and this one. I'm going to use the Move tool, and I'm going to move it up and over, kind of like that. And grab this one and the back one, and I'm going to push this back. Actually, I'm going to grab this too. See how it's very boxy right there? Now yours might look a little bit different because you might have already done some things. So that looks a little bit better. I'm going to grab just this one and just this one. See how it's really boxy? I'm going to move that in and over. Looks okay. And let's move this in a little bit. Up and over like that. Alright, so that's just trying to kind of smooth it out a little bit. Alright. And then his arm feels a little bit. I'm going to double click on this edge loop and just pull this up a little bit. It's a little low. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to Vertex. I'm going to select all of this. I'm going to hold Shift and greater than, and I'm just going to pull his whole arm up a little bit. That's a little bit better. Alright, so again, he's wearing a t-shirt, so I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to use my multi-cut tool, and I'm just going to hold Control and click where I want the t-shirt to start and end, I guess, at the same time. Click on this edge, and I'm going to scale this in and move it in a little bit. And I'm also going to make it a little bit more this way. Okay. There we go. I'm looking at this wrist here, and that looks a bit weird, so I'm just going to go ahead and scale this in a little bit, and a little bit more this way. Those two are fine. I'm just going to go to Vertex and grab this top one and pull that down, and grab this bottom one and pull that up, just because those are kind of jutting out a little bit. Alright. Okay, so now he's got that. And then the neck is terrible, so we're just going to go ahead and I'm going to put a multi-cut tool, and I'm going to put one here. And I'm just going to double click on that, and I'm just going to scale it in so that he has a neck. Currently, he doesn't really seem to have much of one. We'll call that good. And then I'm just going to draw another line in here. Again, the multi-cut tool, holding control. And I'm just going to double click this edge loop and just pull it up a little bit to make like a shirt line. Okay. So now, our dude, let's go ahead and select him as an object and just do the mesh display. Just do soft and hard edge. You can just click on it because the setting's already there. And that should clean it up a little bit. Oops. So if you look, you can see his butt looks a little bit boxy right there. So I'm just going to move that in a little. Also here, it looks a little bit boxy. I'm going to move that in a little. I'm going to take this and move this one in and over a little bit. Just don't want it to be too harsh. Okay. So you can see as far as like the character, he looks okay. Let's do a couple other things just to make it look a little bit better. So you're gonna notice we have some areas that have like quite a bit of geometry, and then we have like areas that have very little, right? Let's break that up a little bit more so that it looks a little bit better. So I'm just gonna put one in here because this is kind of a long span. So I'm just gonna use my multi-cut tool and I'll cut one in here, and I'm just gonna grab that edge, and I'm just gonna scale it in a little bit, just so there's a little bit of variation. Okay. And I'm actually going to push it forward a little bit. Just a very minute amount. Okay. Now if you look, his legs are very much a stick, which is fine, but not fine. So I'm going to click in here, and I'm just going to give him some calves. So I'm going to double click on that, and I'm going to scale it a little bit on all axes, a little bit more on just this one, and then I'm going to push it back a little bit. Because if you look at your shin, right, your shin's kind of straight, and then your calf kind of comes out on this side. And then it's also a little bit wider this way. So that's a little bit better. Just a little bit of a subtle difference. Also breaks it up a little bit. Let's go ahead and kind of do a similar thing with the sleeve. I'm just going to scale this in a slight bit, just so that, you know, it's a little bit nicer of a curve. And then the arm, it's going to need quite a bit more. So we're going to go here. I'm going to put one roughly where the elbow would be, right? Where the arm joint would be, which that's actually a little bit too far over. Okay. Yeah, that seems too far too. Hang on a second. I'm going to say there. God bless it. Cut. Seriously. Cut. There we go. You gotta hold it longer than you actually use it. Okay. So we'll call that the elbow area. So I'm going to make the body, we'll make this a little bit smaller, we'll say, and we'll push it back a little bit. And then I need to do my forearm area. Okay, and I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to make this a little bit wider. I'm going to squish it this way a little bit and go a little bit taller to kind of counteract my wrist. And then the wrist, I'm going to go ahead and squish this a little bit more because it feels a little bit too... Okay, we'll call that good. Alright, so now, you know, it's a decent looking shape, okay, so it's not too bad. But there's one last thing we need to do before it's done, and that is this. Right now, if he were to bend or flex or whatever, he's not going to really be able to do it well. So, for instance, let's say I grab this, and I want to bend at the elbow, right? So, if I go like that, let's go E and D, and I put the pivot right here, you're going to notice that, see, it loses volumes, and it gets super duper pinched, okay? And even if I try to make this like 45 degrees, you see I'm losing quite a bit of volume. What I want to do instead is this. On basically every area that's going to articulate, going to flex, or bend or twist, we want to add 3 edge loops. So basically on either side of this elbow, roughly here we'll say, and here. Now when I go to articulate, and let me do a top view to grab it, because I'm sure I'm not grabbing it straight. Okay. Now when I go to bend it, and I'm just going to do that, E and D. Okay. Hang on a second. Alright. Well, now when I go to bend it, you're going to see I don't lose volume, right? Because it's fanning out, it's spreading out that deformation. So when you see characters that are very like large, like, let's say Kung Fu Pandas, got very stout legs, they'll actually put more than just 3. They'll put like 5 in there. And that way there's more edges to help spread out that volume that needs to flex. And the distance between those edge loops will also be farther. So the thinner they are, the closer those edge loops can be. The thicker it is, the farther apart they need to be. All right. So basically, that's what you need to do. So I'm going to go ahead and put one on either side. If you didn't do it, go ahead and do it. I'm also going to, while I'm at it, double click on this edge loop and push this out just a little bit. So see, it creates an elbow, and it also creates the crease of the arm there, right? So that's kind of a freebie. The wrist here is going to need to be able to flex. So I already kind of have 2. So I'm just going to put one in between. Badoop. All right, let's try that again. Badoop. I didn't say Badoop hard enough. That's what the problem was. And then I'm just going to go ahead and scale this a little bit to make it look like a wrist. Okay, so these we already did because we did those earlier. The shoulder is going to need a flex, so I need to put another edge loop right here. Okay, and then what I can do is actually, every time I make it, might as well kind of take advantage of it, right? So I'm going to grab these 3 here. I'm just going to take this and kind of pull this down. And then I'm just going to grab just this one, pull this one forward. And then I'm going to grab those 3 there and kind of go up and over. So it's a little bit more of a shoulder, okay? So there's an area to flex there. The neck needs a little bit more. So we'll just put another one in there. And I'm just going to kind of scale this in a little bit just so that it looks a little bit better. Okay, so when it's a particular point of articulation, meaning it's bending at one specific joint, right? So you look at like a finger or an elbow, right? It's got a very particular part. If you look at the spine or the neck, it flexes over a large area, right? Your whole spine, every vertebrae is in there, and then it's all flexing. So when you have those, you don't put particularly 3, you just put a line of them, okay? So if you're doing a tail or a hair braid or something, you would just make sure it's evenly spread so that that can be bent overall in a larger, kind of area. So this should be fine. It's a little low, but I think it'll be fine. So the next would be the hips here. So if you look, you can probably use a little bit more in there in order to be able to flex. So I'm going to go to my multi-cut tool, and what I'm going to do is this. I feel like this line should be up higher, so I'm going to actually cut a line very closely to this one, okay? Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click to grab this edge loop, but you're going to see it's not going to go all the way around. The reason why it doesn't go all the way around is because it doesn't know whether it should go this way or up. Because see how there's 5 points? When it's 4, it's very obvious that it should go straight across. So I'm going to double click here, I'm just holding shift and double clicking, make sure it goes all the way around, good. And I'm going to use that slide edge again. So I'm going to go to Mesh Tools, Slide Edge. I'm going to middle mouse button and slide this up like so. And I don't like the way it looks here, so we're going to fix these. But so then I'm going to go to Vertex, I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to push this back out and kind of over. And I'll grab this guy and push you back out and over like so. Okay. I feel like this needs to come out a little bit. I'm not real happy with this geometry here, but honestly, it's fine. Okay, it'll be fine. All right, so so now we kind of have our 3 there. Probably take this one and actually slide this down a little bit. So if you want to use the last tool, so you remember the last action you do when it's something like you grab something and you merge, or you grab something and you hit extrude or something. When it's a tool that you're using, like slide edge, it's Y brings up the last tool that you use. So I'm just going to hit Y and then just slide this back down a little because it wasn't quite halfway. All right, that's fine. The next area of articulation is the knee here. So I'm going to say the knee is just underneath these pants or these shorts. I'm actually going to take these shorts and pull them up a little bit because they're a little bit long. That way I have room to put a knee there. I'd rather have it bent here than right in the middle of this because that makes it kind of weird. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put 3 in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'll put the bottom one first. And then we'll put the next one here. And actually it's just 2 because it'll be this one, and this one. And then what I'm going to do is go to edge, double click on this edge loop, and I'm going to push it forward. And then, so you can see it, now it looks like a knee, and you also get a crease here. And then I'm going to scale it out this way a little bit too. Okay, so that now he's got a point to flex there. Next is the ankle, so that's obviously basically in here. So it's kind of weird. We're just going to put an edge loop in here and call it a day. So I'm just going to go this and boom. So that should give us, you know, I'm going to call this edge loop, and this edge loop the ankle bend area. And last and also least is going to be the ball of the foot. So we already have this little piece here, so I'm just going to go ahead and put one here and one here. And you can see they're kind of not very straight. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab each one, and I'm just going to hit the scale and scale it perpendicular. And scale it perpendicular so that it's a little bit more straight than it was. Alright, so now if you look, our character, his chest is very flat. It's just, so you could spend a while just kind of further developing your character. He just seems really flat there. Okay. Yeah, that's a little better. Okay. So now our character is good. So now we have a body that looks acceptable. Yeah, so that's not too bad. It's kind of just a generic cartoony character. We're going to do the head next. And we're going to do the head in probably a totally wildly different way. Because I'm going to show you another way of working. It also is a little bit more flexible. You might hate it. You might like it. Probably hate it. Okay. We will see you in the next one. So that'll be it. So when you're done with here, just go ahead and save this as the next version. Okay. And then what you're going to want to do is you can close out of this. Ba-doop. Come on, you can do it. Close out of it. You're going to grab the Maya project folder. You're going to zip it, and then you're going to submit it. And that's basically it. Okay. Go ahead and submit this, and you are good.